Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Welcome to All Things Social Security. I am Stephanie Joy, the attorney at Joy Disability. Welcome to the channel, and I hope you enjoy the video. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening. How are you? I am Stephanie Joy with All Things Social Security and with the law practice of Joy Disability. Okay, we got to talk a little bit more about social media because occasionally I see something out there when it comes to a person who is a claimant, and I just want to have them watch the videos again about social media and how you should be a little careful when you have a Social Security disability or an SSI claim. And I would even say post award because you will have a CDR. Okay. And one thing to remember, we're just talking about making everything just not public, making it where everything just is seen by your friends or maybe just a few. Because, friends on Facebook are not necessarily your friends, right? We definitely know that. But even like true, well-meaning people, family and friends can tag you in their photos or videos. So now if they have a publicly available visual and you're in it, now you are public, even though that wasn't your intention and you didn't do it yourself. That's the tortoise. And I guess the other part to this is the snapshots that we see that people care to share on social media. Those those are moments. Those are just moments, snapshots. And you ever notice that they don't capture the harder things about your life? You're not putting up there when you're rolling around in pain because your back is killing you, or maybe you wouldn't be rolling if your back is killing you, but you get what I'm saying. Um, the pain moments or the severe fatigue, if you have fatigue issues, you look alive and alert and all those beautiful pictures on Facebook or what is everybody using now? Instagram, TikTok. Um, I'm just old school. But like the fact that a third to two-thirds of your daylight hours you're fatigued and taking naps. That's not on there. You don't post yourself snoring, right? Um, or if you're doing something physical that you discuss on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, you don't necessarily put the crash that happens afterwards, the overdoing it, where now, or even if you don't think you overdid it, you find that the next day you're like, you could barely move. Those things are not there. So when you're presenting something on social media, the standard is the whole story is not being shown. It's not our entire life. It's these little snippets of our best moments. And that is what is dangerous. And yes, SSA can legally use social media. I don't know why people think they can't. It's my private business. No, it's not because you put it out in the public. It is not private. Okay? Repeat after me. It's not private. If you put it out publicly, it's there. It's not like they're going to force you to give you your password. So make it private. They're not going to force you to give up your passwords. Uh, that would be ridiculous. um, and they don't hack accounts, to get a public view. I mean, the public content it's already out there. Anybody can get it. Don't forget also that private posts are sometimes screenshotted and shared by another person. So let's say you are politically active and trying to educate people in the way you deem best or whatever. And depending on what you say, those things can be snapshotted by someone who is, on the other side and maybe not a very nice person and put on their social media, and it can go all over the place. So you say, well, that doesn't really mean I can physically do a lot of things. I agree with you. But what about the person who has anxiety disorder? Or says they're too depressed to do anything. And here they are shooting their mouth off all over. Um, and I don't have a problem with politically active people. I'm kind of it myself, but I don't have a case. Um, if I was saying that I can't focus and do my work, yet I'm acting like I'm Miss Know-it-all, you know, on politics out on social media, it's going to tell two different stories. You have confidence in your opinion and your knowledge when you post on social media, but you're saying I can't even focus on anything beyond, the simplest of things. It's not going to look credible, in my opinion. But anyway, the bottom line is with the screenshots that are available and everything else, and the fact that most things are public because people don't really protect their stuff from not being public. And even if it's within your friends, they can screenshot it and put it on their page, which is now public. And so therefore your information is not truly private because of that. So private to you online will not necessarily stay private online because of those other factors. Um, and there's obvious things that social media reflections do not mean, but they are a crumb towards finding out more. So, for instance, a vacation photo does not automatically prove that someone can work full time. That's true. And the SSA, any adjudicator is going to say the same thing, which is why they rely on other things and then use those smaller things, all those crumbs of evidence of what this person said they did, statements made by you, really, when you put it up on social media, um, to, come to the conclusion that some task is still available to you to do, which therefore makes this other job available to you. It's very nuanced, guys. How many tasks are there's 12,000 jobs and they all have their own set of tasks that are required. No two of them are exactly alike, right? So imagine you don't know what you don't know about all the 12,000 jobs, and all they need to do is find one, two, or three of them in substantial numbers. All right. Um, yeah, and we mentioned this before. A person who's smiling in social media, that does not disprove that they have depression. It doesn't. If you had a great picture like that every day, it might be a little suspect that maybe your depression is not nearly as bad as you say it is. Okay, another one. Let's say there's pictures of you at a wedding. That doesn't mean you're not disabled. Disabled people go to weddings all the time. My, 80-something-year-old mother would go to a wedding. Doesn't mean she could work an 8-hour day even at a simple job. Not the case. So the fact that these things are up there in a snapshot, they don't mean you're not disabled, but they can be part of the little evidence that over time, the totality of all that evidence kind of helps tip a case that might be close that way. And because these things do not themselves prove anything, generally speaking, we also know that the law is supposed to consider the frequency, duration, recovery time, symptom fluctuations. So one day someone can be good enough to do something and they're not good enough to do it 3 days later. That's all true too. But we're talking about why give them the nugget, why give anyone the ammo against your case, for, when you don't need to. You don't need to. You could still say hello to people. I wouldn't be like on their 8 hours a day because it's going to suggest if you're saying you can't do a desk job all day, you just disproved it. But, here and there is fine. But I would keep it to, hey, how you doing? Maybe private messages, if you need to speak to someone a little more intimately. So it's not like doing this is going to mean that they're going to accuse you of fraud either. Looking at it to in the context of the totality of the whole case, to see this, and this with everything else, we're only talking about the assisting the conclusion that the person has not proven all jobs are not possible because they've confirmed now they have a couple skills they could still do. So don't confuse what I'm saying with them thinking you're a fraud. That's not what we're saying here. This is talking about how you can weaken your case inadvertently, not anything more scary than that. Now, real fraud does exist. You know that. I do the Friday fraud law reviews every Friday. And we know it exists. And the SSA does investigate fraud. And yes, things come from people who call in. That's how they get, I bet you, most of their initial reports, if it's not from the IRS itself. But separately from the fraud, misunderstandings also happen, and that can happen because of how you portrayed yourself online with social media. Like I said, sometimes the photos are old, that doesn't mean you're able now. And other times, sometimes you have a picture of yourself where you pushed yourself through an activity and live to regret it and suffer afterwards. But the suffering afterwards isn't going to be clear. So that's the problem. So social media often removes the context of what happens while you're doing the activity, before and after, particularly the after. So just as a matter of practical advice, guys, don't exaggerate your limits to the SSA in your application or your appeals or your function report, or your work history report. And don't exaggerate your abilities online either. Yeah, you want to put forward your best self, but when it's a completely fraudulent, not in the criminal sense, but completely fake self, then that's just a whole nother issue. And you don't need to do it. Always assume that public posts can be seen. Always assume that possibly your private posts to your friends or a group only can also be shared. Anyone can screenshot. Anyone can screenshot and then put it in an area where it's not unable to be seen by outsiders. Fact. I would definitely avoid talking about any kind of undeclared work online. If you are starting to do a gig or job, and obviously you haven't had tax time, so it's not like you've avoided anything, you just haven't gotten there yet, or you don't know if it's going to work or if there's going to be anything netting, just don't talk about it. Just wait, find other ways. And I know online can be a good source of advertising, an expensive source of advertising, but you really have to do things differently when you have a claim. Unless, of course, you've already discussed your work with the SSA, and then it's all good. Your best approach is always going to be honesty and consistency. That's like two of the major tenets of a successful Social Security disability claim. So do not worry about active investigations. Most claimants, the vast, vast, vast majority, are never going to be under an active investigation. That's not what this is about. This is about you losing your case because now you've given them evidence that suggests you're not as disabled as what is required under the law. Doesn't mean you're committing fraud. It just means her capacity was a little bit better than that. And yes, your social media can absolutely become part of your disability case. Your strongest case is always going to be where your medical records, your testimony at hearing, or on your daily activities report, which is your function report, and your work history report. And then if you happen to be online, where all those things are kind of saying the same thing, they're describing the same basic truth about the person. But when one of those goes awry, and that would, we're talking about social media, that's also true with medical records. If they say something contrary to your claim, if you testify contrary to your claim, if your function report says things, same idea. It's not supporting the same basic truth that you would be unable to do any of the 12,000 jobs out there. Okay? Social media, I mean, you can love it or you can hate it, but you have to be its master when you have a Social Security disability claim. Don't let it be your nemesis and weaken your case. All righty? Thanks, guys. I will talk to you later. Bye.